It's late at night! What are we doing? Why are you making me do this again? It's been too long! Guys, have you missed me? I've missed you! But today we're gonna talk about some serious speed metal! We're gonna talk titanium! Ah!
Yeah, dude.
Hi, I'm Justin Perkins from Factory Supercross. Today we're introducing our California line of shirts. Something special about them is they're packed environmentally friendly. Each shirt that we sell cleans up a pound of plastic in the ocean. Head to supercrossbmx.com.
So guys, we did build a couple of these titanium samples. Now, a titanium BMX frame is something that's been talked about for years. It's something that's been done for years. There are titanium BMX race frames out there. They do exist. There's a company out there called Mike Lard. I hope I'm not screwing up the pronunciation of his name, that builds custom titanium BMX frames for you guys. For anybody who wants a titanium frame, he builds them. Now, what we find though, is that for a racing situation, the frame is way too flexible. There's way too much give. Even though this has the best strength to weight ratio of any metal, it isn't proper for what we need for BMX racing. And carbon fiber is actually a better alternative for us compared to titanium, especially when we start to look at cost. We did build a few of these because our plan was that when we are going to do certain sizes of the carbon fiber frames, we wanted to have an alternative for people that didn't have a carbon fiber advantage. But when we started to build these, the cost to weight ratio quickly got thrown out the window. So with titanium, it's a beautiful material. It does have an excellent strength to weight ratio, but there is a huge cost that comes along with it. If you come in here and look at these welds, obviously everything is TIG welded, just like we TIG weld all of our 4130 chromoly frames. But the detail that has to go into this, we have to purge every single one of these tubes as we're welding it. So every single frame tube has to be purged with argon gas, because the titanium has to be welded in an environment that is completely pure and free of oxygen, because titanium will start to rust and to oxidize as soon as there's any oxygen that hits the weld area as it's in a molten form. So it's very expensive, very difficult to do. There's very few tube shapes that are actually available in titanium in the 3AL 2V, which is the 3AL 2V means that you've got 3.5% aluminum, 2% vanadium that's mixed in with the titanium so that you can actually have a strong structure. Most of the dropouts are machined out of a 6.4, so it's a 6% aluminum, 4% vanadium. So you have differing materials, even though they're the same. You have to go through this purging process. Titanium, it rides good. It rides like a good chromoly frame, but you're talking about something that's going to be 4 to 5 times the cost. So is there going to be an advantage to have a frame that is lighter than a chromoly frame by maybe 3 to 4 ounces for 4 to 5 times the cost? It's not necessarily going to be that big of an advantage. We haven't found that it really provides the fun factor. It just hasn't been something that anybody in this industry has really moved forward on to do. There just hasn't been that much demand. It's a very cool boutique item, and there's some cool people that are doing it, such as Laird. It's always going to be somebody's dream bike to have a titanium frame. Anyways, as we're talking materials, we have titanium, we have carbon fiber. These are the two that everybody really likes to compare. And when you're talking about the weight, the strength, the stiffness, what we're able to do when we build a carbon fiber frame compared to what we're able to do with a titanium frame, for us, it's been a no-brainer. We go carbon fiber. There's a lot more of an investment up front. It costs us a lot more to do the proper molds. It costs us a lot more to do the design technology, but we're able to do the cool things. We're able to do the cool shaping. We're able to do what we need to do to build the frame the way that we want it to do. And we're able to actually shave more weight than we could on a titanium frame. We're able to make it stronger. We're able to make it stiffer. We're able to make it faster. So titanium, when we're talking about it in its solid form, like what you see here in the 6.4V solid titanium blocks, this is what we use when we're manufacturing bolts, when we're manufacturing different solid pieces. And there's a lot of good things that can come out of this, because with this, there's not a lot of flex. But as you can see, I mean, we're talking about machining out solid chunks. Now, it will still stretch, and that's part of like on our carbon fiber stems where we say, hey, don't use the titanium bolts because the titanium bolts will stretch. Race car motors, they know, hey, don't use titanium bolts in head components. Don't use it, in the bearing components because it's gonna stretch. And the problem with the titanium is that it does have an elasticity to it that allows it to stretch. And that's fine. It's got a great yield. It's got a great memory to where it's gonna flex, it's gonna stretch, it's gonna come back to it. So it is really light, and you can build a super light structure with it. And that's where the bolts, axles, spindles, things that are machined out of it. Hub drivers, they're great out of titanium. Chainring bolts, they're great out of titanium. Things like that, perfect. As far as doing these frame structures, that's where we, as a race company, haven't found the advantage for it yet. Now, because we are a race company, we are still playing with it, just like we did with the carbon fiber. And we're always looking for the advantages. We're always looking for the changes, just like we did with aluminum when we found that scandium and started playing with the 7005s, and with the carbon, we're playing with the Toray nanoalloys and the pre-preg materials. Everything advances. The way that you ride advances, the way you train advances, the materials advance. So that's something to where there may be a day that this could come down in price and it could become an advantageous thing for you to have, but not at this current point. Now, I was speaking with a dealer yesterday, Eric, up at Northwest Bikes. Northwest BMX, let me clarify that one. It's not Northwest Bikes, it's Northwest BMX. And we were talking about what he's actually selling right now. He's getting ready to go to a race, and he was loading up on a bunch of RS7 frames, but he was saying that in the shop, what people are buying is they're buying a lot of tri-molly complete bikes. The tri-molly structure, as we start talking about a frame, that means that you've got a chromoly tube, a chromoly tube, a chromoly tube, and the rear end's high tensile steel. Again, as we're talking about material structures, here we've got a frame that would be a tri-molly frame. You've got super weak material in the back end. You've got a stronger material in the front end. And it all becomes a cost-sensitive situation. With a titanium, you can't do that. You can't say, oh, I'm going to weld a titanium front structure to a chromoly rear structure to try and save cost. Just as you can't do that with an aluminum front end to a chromoly rear end. You also need to look at the way that a structure is built to make sure that you're going to have the frame structure do what you need it to do, which is you need it to be strong, you need it to be stiff, you need it to accelerate. That's what you are looking for in a BMX race bike. and what you want to have out of a BMX race frame. When you're looking for your frames, you need to make sure that you're picking the proper material. You want to make sure that you're always picking the proper frame structure for what's going to be best for your application. And that includes the material along with the frame design. Titanium will crack just like any other race material. Typically, you will find that it will crack just past the weld. Unfortunately, what we have found with titanium is that you're going to find that it'll start cracking on the inside because the material wasn't welded properly or purged properly, and you won't be able to see it because typically you'll see that most people are watching for the outside to make sure that there's a proper finish on the frame. So you'll start to see it, well, you won't see it, but it'll start to crack on the inside and then it'll just let go. We've seen more catastrophic failures with titanium than we have with aluminum or chromoly. You can definitely powder coat titanium. Just like with doing a steel frame or an aluminum frame, we recommend a low temp powder coat, but you can always powder coat it, you can Cerakote it. I've never seen anybody do a plating, that's what I was looking for, plating. But the beautiful thing about titanium is you can do some really cool anodizing features on it. And the way that titanium anodizes is a chemical reaction to heat, and you can get some beautiful hues and beautiful colors coming out of the titanium just by it being subjected to different levels of heat. If your titanium frame cracks, do not just take it over to your local muffler shop. Again, as we were speaking about earlier, the tubes do need to be completely purged and can be completely free of oxygen. If you don't have it in a completely oxygen-free atmosphere, you're going to have a problem with the welds. So it does need to be welded by a very special TIG welder who can handle titanium welding. We get asked all the time, are there any specific gimmicks in titanium that we would avoid? And I can't say that there's any gimmicks that we would avoid. There are some pretty cool titanium parts that are out there. Cane Creek has some really cool titanium cranks that are on the market. We have seen like the profile titanium drivers. Obviously, there's our titanium bolts. There's a lot of other companies that have the titanium bolts that are on the market. There's a couple companies that have some titanium bars. There's a couple companies that have some titanium forks. Not specifically any gimmick items that I've seen, but again, make sure that you're picking the right product for the right application and make sure you know exactly what you're getting. Okay guys, so I know we said we were going to talk about some serious speed metal, and I hope we covered some things to cure your appetite for titanium. And if you want titanium, if you really think that titanium's for you, well, let us know. Drop a comment down below. Let us know what your thoughts are. Have you ever ridden a titanium frame? Have you ever seen a titanium frame? But in the meantime, you know what you gotta do? Get out to the track! Go ride!